Welcome back, guys. This is Automotive Anonymous. That's the 2024 Chevy Equinox RS. RS stands for Rally Sport, although in this case, it could stand for really sweet because that's what a jelly bean is. And in my opinion, the Equinox looks kind of like a jelly bean with all of its curves. Today we have a review to do, so we're gonna do a walk around, go through the specs, initial driving impressions, 0 to 60 with a GPS, and then final thoughts to decide, what do you do with the Equinox? Do you buy it? Do you leave it at the lot? Do you look at the other compact crossover competition? And we're gonna find out why 200 to 350,000 people buy the Chevy Equinox every single year in North America. Big thanks to Twin Falls Chevy for letting me borrow their new Equinox. I'll link it below if you're interested. Otherwise, let's dive right in with this review. When you go Chevy Equinox, you should know that this is the third generation of the model. The first gen started in 2005. The second generation started in 2010. And this third generation started in 2018, although it's had a lot of refreshes and updates since then. So it feels very modern even in 2024. Carryover from last year, you still have the 4 trim levels. You can have the LS, that starts about 26,000 and change before destination. But then you can also have the LT or the RS like this, which is the third of the 4 trim levels. But if you want the top model, the Apex, you gotta go premium, and that's a little bit more. However, this RS with all-wheel drive and the way it's spec'd with a lot of extra goodies is about $35,000 MSRP after destination. You also have 2 new colors for 2024. Additionally, Chevy's giving you an electric vehicle version of the Equinox for 2024, but that's a different vehicle entirely. These you can have in front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive configurations, so depending on where you live, depending on what your needs are and your price point, the Equinox gives you a lot of options, which again, one of the reasons why several 100,000 people buy these every single year just in North America. But it's worth noting that it's a global platform. These are also sold in Mexico and in China, so there's a couple million of them out there throughout the globe. These are quite well sized and spec'd for a compact crossover. It's about 15.25 feet long, 6 feet wide, 5.5 feet tall. The wheelbase is about 9 feet, so it's pretty well planted, pretty stable on the road. It weighs about 3,300 to 3,500 pounds, depending on the transmission you go with. And the turbo, like this, can tow 1,500 pounds. It has a 387 final drive ratio with the all-wheel drive system. And then if you look at the sticker on the door jamb, this one can hold about 1,033 pounds of occupants and payload. So it is on a lighter weight crossover platform. You can't load it down with too heavy of equipment, too heavy of people, for being honest. Something else you need to know, if nothing else, is the gas tank is located right there on the driver's side. It's a 14.9 gallon tank. The way this Equinox is spec'd with its 19-inch wheels and all-wheel drive is it's rated for 24 city 30 highway. That means your maximum highway commute is up to 450 miles before you run out of fuel. You have to call AAA, or you do the walk of shame a couple miles down the road to the gas station. Speaking of the 19-inch wheels, they look really good with the gray accents from the RS package and then the tire wrapping around it, giving it a hug, is a 235/50/19, and then there's a spare in the back with disc brakes all around. Otherwise, the key is pretty fancy with lock and unlock features, remote start, hatch release, and the panic button to alert people that you need some help. But honestly, guys, just leave that in your pocket because you have the proximity key features to lock and unlock the vehicle. The door panel of the RS Equinox looks really good, although typical GM fashion, a lot of dark black materials with Hobby Lobby red stitching. You have a pretty nice handle, a really soft armrest. You have your hatch release button, your bottle holder, a miniature sized snack pocket. I don't know why they didn't extend that. And then a ginormous bass speaker. Equinox on the door sill. The mats are not installed yet, but you do have rubberized pedals, OBD2 port, hood release, and your lighting options, ventilation, and your lighting stock right there. You also have power adjusted seats with more Hobby Lobby stitching, fairly decent average bolstering, and they're very comfortable up to the black roofline. Sitting inside the RS is honestly a pretty nice place to be, very human-centric. It feels good in here. Everything's where I want it to be. And once you get past some of those cheaper plastics on the door panel, the rest of the interior, I honestly think looks pretty good for a $35,000 vehicle. We're gonna fire right up with the push button start. Do the needles dance? They do, but they were kind of shy. They took just a moment to get started. Overall, though, the leather-wrapped wheel feels good. It is heated. The horn sounds pretty average for a crossover. And then You have good visibility. You have the basic heads-up display, blind spot monitoring, quite a few safety features on this one to protect you and your family and help you avoid accidents. Cruise control settings on the left with some of those extra safety features you can see, and then voice and volume controls on the right. Here's the center display, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, and it's actually pretty good. I especially really like the camera on these. Physical buttons, auto start stop though, you're gonna have to turn that thing off every single time. And then the hazards, if you need some help, if you need to alert people that you're stranded on the side of the road, probably because you ran out of gas because you weren't paying enough attention. Otherwise, physical buttons for HVAC, you have a couple different plug-ins and a 12 volt down there. Nice declining rubberized pocket for extra storage. The shifter goes down to low. You have all-wheel drive and more parking sensors, cup holders, electronic parking brake, extra storage for some snacks, maybe some pennies, whatever you have, maybe some loose change in your pocket, I suppose. And then more Hobby Lobby stitching on the center armrest with a lifty tray, a couple USBs, and a small LED light down there. Not too bad of a setup. Up top, you have your OnStar settings and your sunglass holder. But I think it's time to turn it off and see how I sit behind myself in the Equinox. The rear door panel honestly follows the same theme. A lot of the same materials made their way back here. Imagine that. Door pocket, speaker, handle, switch. Nothing really on the door sill. Cloth mats back here. The back bench actually looks really good. There's a few different contrasting colors, and you can see the center of the seat is kind of concaved in. You can drop the seats. This is the 60 split. And then you have a map pocket. So when I'm sitting behind myself at 5'11", I can be a backseat driver. I can tell the front driver where to take me, where to chauffeur me, while I'm enjoying some ventilation, some plugins, and a household style outlet down there, which is a really nice feature in the compact crossover class. Center armrest. What they did wrong though is they need to rotate that 90 degrees so you can use it as an armrest, and cup holders down the center for you and your fellow passenger back here. Let's hop out, let's go around to the hatch and see what secrets are hiding back there. In the back of the Equinox, there's 4 ways to get into it. You can either push the button that's on the driver door panel, you can climb over the back seats, you can push the button that's underneath the Chevy emblem, or you can do the laziest of all like I am and use the remote, let the power liftgate do its thing. Back here, you have 30 cubic feet of room, but when you drop the seats, when you pull on these handles, you actually get up to 64, which is pretty good, pretty average for this type of class. It's a little bit less than the Forester, but a little bit more than the CX-5. Otherwise, you also have a button to lower the hatch from right here. It lowers quite quietly and it's not beeping at me like some vehicles do, which is quite nice. No surprises on the rear passenger side, even to the extent of having an identical map pocket for a backseat driver to reside in, basically any seat but the rear middle. Otherwise, the 40 splits down, as you can see. It lays basically flat. You have the child safety tethers right there, and then it's easy to lift back up. Let's come around to the front, hop in the shotgun seat and see what they get, which includes proximity key features. So if you're gonna ride shotgun, is it a nice place to be? Well, I think so. You get Hobby Lobby stitching. You have all the same amenities that you're supposed to have as a passenger. Equinox on the door sill, but manually adjusted seats. However, our backpack's having a good time, enjoying it. And the seats do really look good in person. Otherwise, no extra storage on the side, no extra storage above the glove box. It's adequately sized, although it's always fun when manufacturers throw in like a 12 volt or something into there. But I know you guys have waited long enough. You want to come around, see what the turbocharged engine looks like. Well, let's pop the hood. Under the hood, you have a 1.5 liter Ecotec little turbo engine. It's connected to a 6-speed automatic, and with the all-wheel drive configuration that this is, it has a stampede of 175 earth-shaking little horsepower within its 4-cylinder walls, and 203 pounds of twisty torque. That's what you can feel in your bum under acceleration. Otherwise, because it's a little Ecotec engine, it fits under the hood really well. There's a lot of room to work on under here, and it's easy to identify everything and easy to work on it if you ever had to. Air filter, the piping, the plumbing, the turbo is right there on the front exhaust manifold side of the engine. Then it disappears, comes back around for more turbo piping and plumbing to get to the intake manifold side and the throttle body. You have your oil dipstick, your oil fill, and all of your other reservoirs right there on the driver's side, right behind the battery. But you know what, guys? It's time to drop the hood, take it for a ride. Time for one of my favorite parts. I'm gonna time travel and teleport to one of my favorite roads and show you how it drives. Initial driving impressions of the 24 Equinox RS is honestly, it drives really well and very similar to last year's model. I don't really feel any difference from what I can remember from last year's video. The visibility is really good if you're new to the Equinox RS. Chevy likes you to be able to see out of it. Sitting in here, it's very human-centric. It feels really good in design. The wheels, fine. It's heated. The heated seats feel great. Armrest comfort is fantastic. And you even have the basic heads-up display for all of your adaptive and safety features, because GM wants you to be safe when you're behind the wheel of the Equinox. That's one of the reasons a couple 100,000 people buy this every single year. And if you like cameras, you have a really nice camera, and you can watch it while you're driving. Although I can't legally recommend you do that. The brakes work well, and that little 1.5 liter turbo spools up pretty quick, gets out of its own way, and we have a lot of altitude today you're going to see during the 0 to 60. So it really does pretty well for this class of compact crossover. At about 33 to 3,500 pounds, a 9-foot wheelbase and 15 feet long, feels really smooth on the road, and it handles well. You can see right down the center rear view mirror, right down the side mirrors to know what's going on around you. Because as a driver, you should always be informed. Our backpack's comfortable, the seats feel pretty good. It's about 90 degrees out, so I have the heated feature off right now, but I had it on earlier, and it works well. The AC blows cold. The speaker quality, I would say, is just average. It's not an upgraded system in this. But when you're paying low-mid $30,000 for a crossover that can do basically everything quite well, you know, it's on par. It's what you expect. This has all-wheel drive on demand, physical buttons for HVAC, and a responsive screen. So honestly, you're going to be having a pretty good time in the Equinox RS. What are your thoughts of it though? Comment below, let me know your thoughts and opinions, and let's get to our private road and do a 0 to 60. 0 to 60 in the 24 Equinox RS. Keep in mind, density altitude is 6,200 feet, so even though this vehicle's turboed, it's still compressing less oxygen-dense air, and we're down on power like 10% or more. So we'll brake rev it, we'll see what it can do. Traction control is left on because there's not an easy way to turn it off in this vehicle. Here we go. And 0 to 60 in front wheel drive mode came in at 9.69 seconds. Not bad given our 6,200 foot density altitude. Here's that graph, and then our final thoughts. My final thoughts of the 2024 Chevy Equinox RS is honestly, for about $35,000, I think it competes fairly against the other compact crossover CUVs. It does a pretty good job. It has a lot of creature comforts and safety features and cargo capacity. That's why a lot of people buy vehicles like this. Also, with about 8 inches of ground clearance, all-wheel drive, and pretty decent MPG up to about 30 on the highway, you're gonna be having a good time. You're gonna be able to take it places, and you're still 13 grand less than the average new car. I think there's a good reason why this sells several 100,000 units every single year just in the United States alone. It's pretty good. It competes against things like the Forester, the Mazda CX-5, and other 2-row little SUVs that have about 30 foot of cargo capacity behind the second seats. So what are your thoughts? Do you guys like it? Are you considering it? Would you buy one of these? Or are you going to be looking at a different model, a different manufacturer altogether? I want to know. But what else I want to know is if you like this video, please consider liking this video. Your small act of kindness really goes a long way. It helps the video get shared. It really helps my channel to grow so that I can do bigger things for you guys down the road. If you like my style, you're welcome to subscribe. I always post a couple times a week. And until the next one, I hope you guys take care. Have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks for making it this far. See ya.